everybody, and welcome back to Crypto Simplified. Today's video is a special one because it brings together two of my absolute favorite things in this world, football and cryptocurrency. You might have read the news about Paris Saint-Germain, the top team in France, partnering with a blockchain company. For those who are into football, this would have made absolutely no sense. For those into cryptocurrency, this wouldn't have made much sense to them either. So in this video, what I want to do is explain the current state of football, the current state of football ownership, revenue, expenses, and how this can tie in with a cryptocurrency-based membership model that could maybe benefit all parties involved. So welcome to Crypto and Football. But before I get into this, I'd like to remind you that I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. You got to do your own research because this is just an informative video and hopefully it's a start to your own research. If you're new over here, why not click on that subscribe button? And if you are a regular viewer of my content, why not click on that bell button, get updates from me the moment I upload. So without any further ado, let's jump into this video and let's talk about the state of club ownership, mainly in Europe. Of course, this does apply to clubs around the world, but the majority of teams are owned either by a wealthy individual, a group of wealthy individuals, or companies. In most instances, these owners, as well as a bunch of directors, have the final say in the direction of the club. When it comes to final say, it's all about the hiring and firing of managers, and then the managers in the team handle the coaching staff. It's also these owners who put the money up to buy and sell players. They don't directly get paid for selling the players. It's the company, the club, the holding company at the club that gets all this income. Depending on profits and losses, there will be dividends paid out at the end of every year to all the shareholders and people who have a financial stake in the club. However, there are some exceptions to this rule. The most widespread one is in Germany, where the league insists that the clubs are owned by the fans. So 51% of the holdings of the club are owned by the fans, and these are members who make decisions for the future of the club, such as any logo changes, branding, and that sort of stuff. There are also a few clubs in Spain that are not sticking to this normal ownership model, and it's a select few clubs. Athletic Bilbao, Osasuna, Deportivo de La Coruña, Eibar, and the two top clubs in the country, FC Barcelona and Real Madrid. So if you're a member of this club, you're called a socio, and there are thousands of members over here. You need to pay a little bit of money, and you have sort of voting rights on minor issues of the club. Of course, you can't choose the first 11. You don't choose who's on the bench. You don't really choose the coach. All this stuff is done on a much higher level among a closed group of directors. But they do decide stuff such as the kit color or any new songs and banners and decorations in the stadium. It's a much more minor membership, but it is very important for fan engagement because the fans believe that they have a say in the development of the club. So keep the idea of socios in the back of your mind. We will be revisiting that a little later in the video, but let's look for now at the revenue and expenses. So the main ways in which clubs earn money are through broadcasting and prize money, combined with commercial partnerships. So between these two things, you're probably going to get about 80 to 90% of the earnings in a year, especially for the top division clubs. Of course, as you go down the divisions, these percentages differ dramatically. Player sales are a very easy way of raising money, but that involves you getting rid of a prized asset because your average players will command average sums. They're probably on average wages, so getting them off your wage book won't be that important for you in terms of your balance sheet. The top expenses are player purchases and player wages, and every club will face these sort of expenses. Of course, your high roller clubs will have much higher expenditure in these two things. A top team will probably spend about £3.5 to £5 million per week on playing staff wages. So it is a massive outlay, and you combine that with the one-time fees given to other clubs for a player to break their contract and join your club, the expenses are very high. In the odd situation, you might have stadium development. In association football, the clubs own the stadium or they rent the stadium out. The taxpayer has nothing to do with stadium procurement, unlike in the NFL. So the teams have to bankroll their own stadiums, and of course if they're building a new stadium, this could severely hamper their expenses in those two other highlighted things, the player purchase and player wages, because these stadiums are expensive and they need to pay for these stadiums over a course of many years. Arsenal experienced a dramatic reduction in their muscle in the markets because of paying their dues for the Emirates stadium that they constructed after they shifted from the Highbury. So these other expenses, while they aren't nearly as much, they do add up. And these expenses can also be offset by high levels of quality when it comes to matchday services, and if there's a large fan base, you're going to sell more merchandise. In short, on-field results, if you're playing well, you have more live matches being broadcast, you're going to get more live match money. You get more partnerships because brands want to be associated with successful teams. You can buy better players. Your players that you have performed well, if you perform well on the field, you can sell them for a great amount of money. Fans want to see a successful team, so your gate receipts will go up, as well as the amount of money from matchday services. On the other hand, if you're not doing well at all, good players will want to leave and you'd probably be forced to sell them for lower than their market value. So results most definitely affect the earning modules, and if you get relegated from the English Premier League, for example, that is straight off the bat £60 million wiped off your balance sheet. This video is just to give you a basic understanding about the cash flow in these clubs. If you'd like more information on how these football clubs make money, how they manage their finances, I have lots of literature in the description. So now that you have a better idea on the earning models and the ownership models of these clubs, let's look at the state of football right now. And if you are both a casual viewer or an ardent fan, you have noticed that the 0.1% of teams have all the best players. It's probably 8 teams in the world have this financial muscle to buy players and have the reputation to match. The thousands of other teams in the sport are fighting for scraps. Obviously, scraps relative to where they are on the football pecking order. The popularity of teams in leagues varies as well. The English Premier League is by far the most popular league in the world, and the team that finishes bottom of the league in England still earns significantly more money in broadcast revenue and commercial partnerships than teams even finishing 5th or 6th in Spain. So there's a huge amount of economic disparity. And also challenging these top teams involves you signing better players. Better players are very expensive and they command huge wages. In addition to paying these players massive amounts of money, you have agents who represent these players, and agent fees have been skyrocketing in recent years, even though FIFA has made commitments to reduce agent effects in football and agent influences in football. It is just hearsay, because about £40 million was spent in the acquisition of Paul Pogba, and that money went to his agent Mino Raiola. Of course, it's possible if clubs have a bit of a financial instability going on, they can go public and bring in more working capital into the team, but this isn't by no means common. Man United have done that by floating some stocks on the Singapore Stock Exchange, but the ownership is still very much consolidated within a few parties. Basically, the current state of football makes the rich get richer and keeps the chasing pack chasing. In a bid to challenge the existing hegemony, billionaires came into the game. They acquired teams such as Chelsea, Manchester City, AS Monaco, PSG. And these billionaires bankrolled some huge transfers, signing star players from these established ordered teams, putting them on massive wages in a bid to get success to different parts of the European footballing landscape. However, there were obscene sums being spent. Manchester City have spent over £1 billion in the last 12 years on player acquisitions. PSG spent over €200 million to sign one player, Neymar, from Barcelona. The sums being quoted were obscene, and these obscene sums were being paid. And that isn't exactly great for the financial health of these teams, because a lot of these clubs spending these huge amounts of money were not making back anywhere near the same amount of money. So UEFA, the European football governing body, stepped in and introduced financial fair play. Their goal was to improve the financial overall health of European football. That is, from their website, word for word. Basically, it's to stop clubs from buying the title. So those aforementioned clubs like Manchester City, PSG, Monaco, spending a whole bunch of money. It was the established order, such as Man United, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich, who did not really want these new money teams coming in. Look at it from their perspective. It's like they have worked. They've won. They've built up their reputations, and they have built up their financial networks in order to be able to bankroll these huge transfers without going into the red. On the other hand, you have billionaire-backed clubs coming in, splurging, getting all the best players. It's like someone working up from the bottom and then buying themselves a nice car versus someone whose parents have bought them a nice car. Of course, everyone has a nice car at the end, but the way in which they get it is being disputed. And football being a game of the people, having all these billions being thrown around sort of goes against their core idea. But based on the rules of financial fair play, clubs cannot spend more than they earn, or they're allowed about a €5 million loss in a year. Considering the sums we're talking about, such as £500 million of revenue from Man United, and similar sums for the other top teams in Europe. Of course, the median revenue in the Premier League is about 100 million, just under 100 million. So this is all in a bid to stop clubs from going way in the red. And part of the specifications that more than 75% of total outgoings cannot be in wages. So you cannot sign players on free transfers at the end of their contract and then pay them absolute mad amounts of money. Your outgoings always have to be in line with the amount of money you are earning. But the most common criticism of this is that it hasn't really stopped the massive spending from clubs like Man City and PSG. And when these clubs do break the rules, the level of punishment that they're getting is not really saying anything. Because in England, if clubs go deep in the red, they go into administration and the club gets relegated down to the bottom tier of football. The UEFA penalties are nowhere near as tough, and some people have even argued that it's hampered competitiveness because some clubs are in such bad financial shape that they do need an injection of money to actually kickstart their path to success. So, having said all that, you must be wondering, where does crypto fit in? Well, let me tell you. First up, the token ecosystem that Ethereum has made so accessible for everyone in the world is already being used in membership and loyalty programs. I know there's a strip club in the US that has a loyalty program based on holding tokens. You can get access. Tokens have been used to show an immutable ledger of ownership and, like in the aforementioned strip club example, access. Token ecosystems are ideal for long-tail fundraising, i.e. very specific groups of interest who are, of course, very engaged in their interest group, but it's very specific nonetheless, such as football clubs, because billions of people around the world care about football, but very small select groups like certain clubs. So a highly customizable token ecosystem is perfect for this sort of thing. And finally, tokens can be used to raise capital without actually selling any assets. Now compare this with the current state of football. I've spoken a lot about the rich clubs at the very tippy top. As I mentioned earlier, these are the 0.1% of clubs in the world, maybe even less than that. Almost every other club is struggling to make ends meet. The end of the financial year makes people sweat bullets because bankruptcy is a real threat for most teams around the world. It's very difficult to raise capital without selling valuable assets such as players, stadium naming rights, or training facilities, or renting them out. It's not easy to make ends meet for most clubs. And since they don't have the luxury of venture capital funding, it becomes a lot more difficult. Ticket prices are rising all the time, especially in England, where it seems almost unaffordable to go for matches nowadays. Someone ran the math, and it's a lot cheaper to be a Real Madrid season ticket holder living in London, paying for the flights and hotel every week, than it is to be an Arsenal season ticket holder. Ticket prices are rising to unaffordable highs. The intimate experience in lower leagues, a lot of these die-hard local fans over here, they feel that football is being corrupted by foreign money, and I'm sure they would like a way for them to donate more to the club. Of course, if people cannot afford it, they won't do that, but there are lots of people who are more than willing to spend more money for the benefit of their team. And lastly, you've got to spend money to make money, but how can you spend money to make that money if financial fair play is standing in the way? Enter the Socios movement. Socios.com is an official partner with Paris Saint-Germain, and they hope to bring other clubs on board. But what exactly are they all about? So they are using that Socios idea from these top Spanish clubs to create a football-specific voting and tokenization app on the ChilliZ platform. What is the ChilliZ platform? You will come to that soon. Basically, this is ideal for German and Spanish style clubs where the members are a key part of the decision-making process. You participate in this by buying fan tokens using the native CHS token. Again, more on that later. And you can get a whole bunch of advantages from owning this. So in addition to giving your club working capital, for example, they need to raise 500,000 for a new training field. They need to raise 20,000 for the team to travel for another away match. These tokens can be used to create that sort of liquid capital while giving fans a whole bunch of benefits that come from holding these tokens. Of course, the most basic version of these are VIP access, loyalty points, and voting rights, but we could go on to much bigger things. This is a very new movement, and we're still learning how to use these tools that we have at our disposal right now. However, the Socios thing has not been launched just yet, so we've got to wait before we can actually start experimenting further. So I mentioned the ChilliZ platform. Let's have a closer look at that. This is an esports voting platform and a custom leagues platform. So they are focused on esports right now. They're also focused on poker. Football is going to come soon. I shall get to that in the roadmap. But basically what the ChilliZ platform is a permissioned Ethereum sidechain. So it's going to be an ERC20 token. They are not planning on having their own native blockchain. And this is a fairly recent project that was launched in April. We all know that that was in the height of the bear market, and $27 million was raised from a $60 million hard cap. Most of this was actually in pre-sale and in private sales. And we need to remember that the 6-month vesting period is coming to an end. So we might see the ChilliZ token being listed on exchanges soon. So the goal of the ChilliZ platform is to increase fan engagement, to give fans more access, and to let fans actually decide what goes on in a more cosmetic way. Because of course, the gamers who are on this know what they're doing, but it just provides fans with a more intimate experience. Of course, they're going to be focusing on some of the biggest games out there, such as Fortnite, PUBG, and CSGO, but currently they have an MVP, minimum viable product, on poker, because that is where the parent company is more experienced, and the parent company is Mediarex, based in Malta. These guys want to connect fintech and esports, sectors that are growing absolutely massively. So Mediarex has been around for a while, and this ChilliZ project is just another offering of theirs. And they do have some fantastic connections because they're bringing Binance, OKX, Tron, and a whole bunch of others to Malta, as well as creating spaces for blockchain companies in the country. Malta has a bunch of very favorable legislation for blockchain companies, so they do want to become a bit of a hub for all this development. Links to all these companies in the description, so do check it out if you're interested in learning more about this. In the meanwhile, I'm going to have a look at the team, and there are 4 core members listed on this team: Alexandre Dreyfus, Thibaut Pelletier, Max Rabinovich, and Emma Diskin. If you'd like to know more about any of these people, their LinkedIn profiles are on the description, so you can check it out. I shall be focusing on the CEO, Alex Dreyfus, because he is a serial entrepreneur. This guy really has a great reputation in Malta, in France. He's worked in both countries extensively, and he has lots of experience in managing people. He's very, very good at pivoting because he started with poker, shifted to esports, and now shifted to cryptocurrency. He's a very agile businessman who knows what he's doing. One of his earlier PR companies was actually acquired by Publicis, one of the largest PR advertising firms in the world. These guys keep acquiring lots of companies from around the world, and a company that does well is possibly going to get acquired. And Alex Dreyfus has managed to do that. In addition to the results that he's brought, he has connections with the Maltese government, Binance, and the owner of Binance CZ. So this is a mix of personal and professional relationships really standing him in good stead. While all these connections are pivotal, what will decide the success or failure of an esports voting website or platform are the gamers, the people who bring the esports fans to the platform. And there are some great high profile names over here. While I'm not an esports fan, I do know of Yellow, and that just shows the larger than life personalities that are going to be directing traffic to this platform. All these individuals who are involved in the project are listed in the white paper, link in the description, like for all my sources, so do check it out if you'd like a further read up on that. Next up, let's have a look at investors, and we do have Binance, FBG, and OKX, 3 massive powerhouses in the cryptocurrency space who have invested in this project. But also I should bring your attention to an individual who's invested in this company, Steven Nereyoff, who was the legal counsel for Ethereum and was also involved in Lisk, Bancor, Zencash, Zcash, Aeon. This guy is a veteran investor in the cryptocurrency space. Veteran considering that this space is only about 10 years old, but he has partnered with some great projects that are bringing value right now. As I said earlier, the esports space is growing really rapidly, and in any rapidly growing industry, there has to be a healthy presence of competition. And this is from the white paper, of course. These are the competitors that ChilliZ have identified as being their key peers in this space. Peers, competitors, enemies, you can see it as you like. Competition is the best possible thing for us, the end consumer. So we hope that there should be more competitors coming in right now. But honestly, it's very, very possible for all these companies to coexist and for there to be users on several of these platforms. It's not outside the realm of possibility because gaming can have lots of exclusives. Certain games can partner with certain platforms, and people can be members of multiple platforms. So it's highly possible, and competitors will make this space great. So having said all that, let's have a look at the company's roadmap. So first up, we do not know when the CHZ tokens will be available for purchase. They're not really on Ether Delta, and I'm not too sure when this vesting period is going to be over. We don't have an exact date, but we do have some potential milestones coming up. Q4 of 2018, we have the platform launch and GPL, which is the Global Players League, which is one of the big offerings from ChilliZ. This Global Players League is already active with poker as this active offering, but when it officially launches, we'll have PUBG, Fortnite, and CSGO on that platform. At the start of next year, this platform will open up to third parties for people to create custom leagues as well as to integrate other games onto this platform. And lastly, the one that I'm looking out for is Q3 of 2020, when conventional sports such as football, baseball, and a whole bunch of others will be integrated onto this platform. For me, that is the key date, and that ties in quite nicely with some of the concerns that I actually have for a project like this. The first one is that it is a non-native blockchain and it relies on Ethereum sorting out their scalability issues for this to be truly global. In their white paper, they mentioned there are about 2.2 billion gamers on here. Of course, they're not going to have all 2.2 billion gamers working on a platform like this, but will it be able to handle all that load and attention? CryptoKitties example is becoming a bit of a cliche right now, but I have to bring it up. Scalability is most definitely a problem. Next is the ChZ token itself. Of course, this platform is very reliant on the ChZ token, but in order to participate on the Socios platform, you need ChZ tokens. The football fan and the crypto fan, there are not that many instances where these things overlap, because I've noticed this a lot on my Twitter timeline. People are talking about losing their interest for sport when crypto comes into their life. I can relate to that because I am an absolute football enthusiast. I used to spend hours every week focusing on watching matches, reading analysis, doing all this sort of stuff. But crypto takes up so much of my life right now. I haven't even joined a fantasy football league this year because I cannot dedicate that sort of time to actually staying informed about football. So currently it seems to be an either or situation. But if you are a football fan and a crypto fan who manages to dedicate enough time to both of these things, you leave a comment. Let me know that you folks actually exist. Next up, the voting in esports is totally different to voting in real sports, because these real sports have actual infrastructure, organizations, and they have lots and lots of people in their employ. In addition to playing staff and coaching staff, you have marketing staff, you have security, you have grounds people, you have people in the nutrition area, you have people working on the broadcasting, the native broadcasting, in-house broadcasting at the club. You have lots and lots of people who will never ever step on the field. You have accountants, you have so many people. These are massive organizations, and voting for the progression of a physical entity like a sports club is totally different to voting in esports. So we need to find a proper balance over here. The teams that need the capital are not the sexiest names around. So by partnering with PSG, Socios have partnered with possibly the one team in the world that needs extra capital least. Because PSG have openly flouted financial fair play, and they have spent so much money. They bought Kylian Mbappe and Neymar in the same year. Of course, they bought Mbappe on a 1-year loan with an obligation to pay the next year in order to sort of show on the books that these massive transfers have been made in consecutive years. But this sort of financial tomfoolery is something that PSG are very adept at, and they are the last team in the world that would need a capital injection. You want tiny teams like A-Bar, who I mentioned earlier, who need this sort of money. So will it make the rich teams even richer and alienate the smaller teams even further? And finally, the big question: does this actually need to be on a blockchain? Will they be better served with a centralized service, a centralized membership thing? Because loyalty programs have been going on long before the blockchain was even conceived. So do we actually need a blockchain? What aspect of this must be decentralized for security and for immutability of records? So on that thought, I shall be leaving you. What do you think about this ChilliZ platform, the Socios platform, and the role of cryptocurrency in football fan life? What do you think about that? I'd love to hear your thoughts, because this is a very, very divisive topic. Money in football has been the source of many fights that I've had with friends, as well as some very, very engaging debates about the viability of football as an economic model. What do you think? Do let me know. I'm open to all your feedback. If you enjoyed the video, why not like, subscribe, and send me a message on Twitter. I'd love to know all of you folks beyond just the likes and comments that you give me. I'm open to having a chat. If you're a football fan and a crypto enthusiast, hey, I thought I'm the only one out there. Please, please, please get in touch. So you folks take care. We shall catch up very, very soon. This is Marv from Crypto Simplified signing off. Later.